You know what's frightening? For many people over 60, memory problems don't begin with something dramatic. It starts quietly. A forgotten password, missing keys that were just in your hand, walking into a room and suddenly stopping because you can't remember why you went there in the first place. Then one day, somebody in the family says, "Mom, you already told me that story." And that's usually the moment people begin to worry. Now, here's the part most people never hear. Some researchers are starting to believe that one of the biggest threats to brain health after 60 may not be hidden in a hospital report or some rare disease. It may be sitting on the breakfast table, a food millions of people eat every single day, a food most people think is completely harmless. Some even think it's healthy, but over time, this food may slowly increase inflammation inside the brain, affect memory signals, and speed up the kind of brain changes linked to dementia. And what makes this even more dangerous is that the damage doesn't happen overnight. It builds slowly, year after year, meal after meal, until the brain starts struggling to do things that once felt easy. In today's video, I'm going to show you the everyday foods doctors are becoming more concerned about, why they may affect the aging brain, and the simple swaps that can help protect your memory without turning your life upside down. Make sure you stay until the end, because one of the foods on this list is eaten by millions of older adults almost every morning, and most people have absolutely no idea it may be hurting their brain health. Hi, I'm Dr. Juliet, and on this channel, we make health simpler, clearer, and easier to actually use in real life. If you're over 60, or you love someone who is, this video could genuinely change the way you look at food and memory. Let's get started. A few months ago, a man named Richard came into his daughter's kitchen early in the morning looking confused. He opened one cabinet, then another, then the fridge. Finally, his daughter asked, "Dad, what are you looking for?" And he just stood there for a second before quietly saying, "I honestly can't remember." Now, at first, nobody panicked. Richard still drove to the store, still paid his bills, still joked with his grandkids. So the family brushed it off. But little things kept happening. He started forgetting conversations, repeating stories, missing appointments he normally never forgot. And one moment really stayed with his daughter. One afternoon, Richard was making tea, something he'd done for over 40 years, and suddenly forgot how much sugar he normally added. Not because he was distracted. His brain just paused. And that's the thing about memory decline. For many people, it doesn't arrive quickly. It creeps in quietly. Tiny changes, tiny slips, tiny moments people explain away. But researchers now believe something important. The brain doesn't suddenly become unhealthy overnight. The process may begin years earlier inside the body, especially through inflammation, poor blood flow, unstable blood sugar, and certain daily eating habits. And one of the biggest problems is this: some foods don't just affect the stomach or weight. They may also affect the brain itself, especially after 60, when the brain becomes more sensitive to inflammation and energy crashes. Before we go deeper into the foods, let's quickly talk about what dementia actually is. Because many people hear the word, but don't fully understand what's happening inside the brain. Dementia is not one single disease. It's a condition that affects memory, thinking, focus, and sometimes even personality or behavior. The early stages can look very small: forgetting names, losing track of conversations, losing things more often, struggling to find the right words. But as the brain becomes weaker, simple daily tasks can slowly become harder. And here's something many people don't realize. Your brain is constantly working every second of the day. Even right now, it's sending signals, storing memories, processing words, controlling emotions, helping you recognize faces and places. And to do all of that properly, the brain needs three very important things: good blood flow, stable energy, low inflammation. That's why what happens inside the body matters so much after 60. Because as we age, the brain becomes more sensitive. When blood sugar spikes too often, when inflammation stays high for years, when blood vessels become unhealthy, the brain can slowly start struggling to communicate the way it used to. And some everyday foods may quietly increase inflammation and stress inside the body for years without people noticing. Not right away, but slowly. That's why doctors are paying much closer attention now to the connection between diet and brain health, especially in adults over 60. Let's start with a food that surprises a lot of people. Food number 1, processed breakfast meats. Things like sausages, bacon, hot dogs, smoked meats, and some packaged deli slices. To be clear, eating these once in a while is probably not the issue. The concern is when they become an everyday habit for years. For many older adults, that's exactly what happens. A quick sausage in the morning, bacon with bread, processed meat sandwiches in the afternoon. It's easy, filling, convenient. But here's what researchers have been paying attention to. These foods are heavily processed and often contain substances called preservatives and nitrates. Over time, too much of these may increase inflammation inside the body and blood vessels. Your brain is extremely sensitive to inflammation. Think of the brain like a city powered by tiny electrical connections. Your memory, your focus, your ability to remember names and conversations all depend on those connections working smoothly. But inflammation acts almost like rust in the system. Things slow down. Signals don't travel as clearly. And over many years, researchers believe this may contribute to the brain changes linked to cognitive decline and dementia. One large study even found that people who regularly ate higher amounts of processed meat had a greater risk of memory-related decline later in life. Honestly, when you think about it, it makes sense. Your brain needs healthy blood flow and stable energy, but heavily processed foods tend to do the opposite. Now here's the good news. You do not have to completely give up foods you enjoy. You need to make smarter choices. Small swaps can make a huge difference over time. For example, grilled eggs instead of sausage every morning, fresh chicken instead of processed deli meat, beans, fish, or boiled eggs for protein. Simple changes shouldn't be extreme, because protecting the brain is usually not about one big decision. It's the small daily habits repeated for years that matter most. And wait until you hear the next food, because many people consume it every single day without realizing how much it may affect the brain over time. Food number 2, sugary soft drinks and sweet coffee drinks. Now this next one may be one of the biggest hidden problems of all, because many people don't even think of it as food. Sugary drinks, soft drinks, sweet tea, flavored coffee drinks, bottled iced coffees, energy drinks, even some packaged fruit drinks. A lot of these drinks contain huge amounts of added sugar packed into a single bottle or cup. The body absorbs liquid sugar very quickly. That means blood sugar rises fast, especially when these drinks are consumed regularly over time. Now here's why researchers are paying attention to this. The brain depends on healthy blood vessels and stable energy to function properly. But diets constantly high in sugar may increase inflammation and place stress on blood vessels throughout the body, including the brain. After 60, the body usually becomes less efficient at handling repeated sugar overload. That's why many experts now encourage older adults to pay closer attention not only to what they eat, but also to what they drink every day. Honestly, a lot of people consume far more sugar through drinks than they realize. A sweet coffee in the morning, a soda in the afternoon, sweet tea at dinner. Individually, each drink may not seem like a big deal, but over many years, those habits can quietly add up. Sometimes simple swaps can make a real difference. Water, sparkling water, unsweetened tea, black coffee, or lower sugar drinks. Because small daily habits often shape brain health far more than people realize. Food number 3, instant noodles and packaged ramen. Now this next food is extremely common because it's cheap, fast, and easy to make. Instant noodles, packaged ramen cups, flavored noodle packets, quick microwave noodles. A lot of people eat these foods for convenience, especially when they don't feel like cooking. But many instant noodles are highly processed and packed with excess sodium, refined carbohydrates, preservatives, and unhealthy fats. Over time, diets very high in heavily processed foods may affect blood pressure, inflammation, and circulation. That matters because the brain depends on healthy blood flow to work properly. Researchers have also found that diets high in ultra-processed foods are often linked to poorer overall brain health later in life. This doesn't mean somebody can never enjoy noodles again. The bigger issue is frequency. Eating these foods occasionally is very different from eating them every time for years. A better option could be homemade noodles, vegetable soups, brown rice, or meals with more real ingredients and less processing. Because after 60, the brain usually benefits from simpler, less processed eating habits over time. And the next food on this list may be one of the sneakiest of all, because many people don't even realize how often they're consuming it. Food number 4, processed sweet snacks and cookies. Now this next category is probably sitting in kitchen cabinets all across the country right now. Packaged cookies, sweet crackers, snack cakes, candy bars, processed desserts people nibble on throughout the day. The reason these foods are such a problem is not always because people eat a huge amount at once. It's because they're easy to keep eating without thinking about it. One cookie turns into three. A small evening snack becomes a nightly habit. Over time, the body keeps dealing with repeated waves of sugar, refined flour, and heavily processed ingredients. Now, here's something important. The brain actually uses a lot of energy. So when people eat sugary foods, they often feel a quick burst of comfort or alertness at first. But that temporary feeling doesn't last very long. A few hours later, many people feel tired, foggy, sluggish, or hungry again. And after years of this pattern, researchers believe it may place extra stress on the body's ability to regulate blood sugar properly. That matters because blood sugar problems and brain health appear to be closely connected. In fact, adults with diabetes often have a higher risk of memory-related decline later in life. Scientists are still studying how insulin resistance and chronic inflammation may affect the aging brain. Now I want to point out something many people overlook. A lot of these snacks are designed to be extremely easy to overeat. They're soft, sweet, convenient, comforting. That combination keeps people reaching for more without realizing how often they're eating them, especially during stress, loneliness, boredom, or late at night. Honestly, many people are not just feeding hunger. Sometimes they're feeding emotion. That's why changing eating habits can feel difficult. Food is connected to routine, comfort, memories, and emotions. But even reducing these foods, little by little, may help the body and brain over time. Simple swaps matter. Things like nuts, fruit, homemade snacks, or even learning to snack less often at night. Nothing extreme. Just helping the brain deal with less stress day after day. And now we need to talk about one final food category many older adults rely on for convenience. Food number 5, processed frozen meals. And finally, let's talk about something many older adults keep in the freezer for convenience. Processed frozen meals, frozen pizzas, microwave dinners, packaged ready-made meals. Honestly, it's easy to understand why people buy them. They're fast, simple, no cooking stress. But many of these meals are heavily processed and often contain large amounts of sodium, preservatives, refined oils, and added sugars hidden inside sauces and flavorings. Over time, eating too many highly processed meals may increase inflammation and affect heart and blood vessel health. And since the brain depends heavily on good circulation, researchers believe these long-term eating habits may also affect memory and cognitive health later in life. Another issue is that many frozen meals don't contain enough fiber, fresh vegetables, or quality protein to properly support the body as we age. Now again, this is not about perfection. Convenience foods exist for a reason, but even small improvements can help. Adding more fresh foods, homemade meals, vegetables, fish, beans, or whole foods throughout the week may support healthier aging over time. And the brain often responds better to consistent healthy habits than extreme short-term changes. And before we finish, there's one more thing many people need to hear. Because some viewers may now be sitting there thinking, have I already damaged my brain? Now, if you're listening to all this and thinking, well, I've been eating some of these foods for years, I want you to hear me carefully. The brain is not as hopeless as many people think. In fact, researchers now know the brain can continue adapting and responding to healthier habits even later in life. That's the encouraging part. Because this is not about being perfect. It's about giving the brain a better environment starting now. Honestly, some of the most powerful changes are also the simplest. The first thing is reducing ultra-processed foods little by little, not overnight, not with extreme diets, just becoming more aware of what's entering the body every day. More real food, less heavily manufactured food. The second thing is supporting stable blood sugar. That matters more than many people realize. Meals with protein, healthy fats, fiber, vegetables, nuts, beans, fish, eggs, and whole foods tend to keep energy steadier throughout the day. The brain responds well to stability. Another important habit is movement. Nothing extreme. Walking, light exercise, stretching. Even simple daily movement helps improve circulation and blood flow to the brain. Sleep matters too. During sleep, the brain actually clears out waste and resets itself. That's one reason poor sleep over many years may affect memory and focus. And one more thing people often underestimate: loneliness, and stress. The brain is deeply connected to emotional health. Conversation, laughter, purpose, and connection, these things matter as we age. And honestly, this is why I always tell people brain health is not built from one magical supplement or one superfood. It's built from daily habits repeated consistently over time. Small choices, repeated often. That's usually what shapes how the brain ages. The beautiful thing is, small improvements today may still make a meaningful difference years from now. So if there's one thing I hope you take from this video, it's this. Aging does not mean giving up on your brain. Your 60s, 70s, and even 80s can still be years where you protect your memory, stay mentally sharp, and feel more in control of your health decisions. Often, it starts with the small things people do every day without thinking about them. What's sitting in the kitchen? What's being eaten every morning? What becomes a habit for years? Because food is not just feeding the stomach, it's also feeding the brain. Now, I'm curious, which food on today's list surprised you the most? Let me know down in the comments. I read your comments all the time, and honestly, hearing your experiences helps other people realize they're not alone in this journey. If you know someone over 60 who eats a lot of these foods every day, share this video with them. Sometimes one simple conversation can help somebody make healthier choices earlier. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more simple and practical videos on brain health, aging, mobility, heart health, and living a longer, healthier life. And until next time, take care of your body gently, because your brain is depending on it.